Sean, just spell out a bit more what's going on with those frustrations of the UK and the US and how Israel is responding.
Yeah, part of this, Matt, good afternoon, is all about the weapons, bluntly. The rising casualty rates in Gaza, the whole prospect of whoever provides those weapons on the ground risks breaking international law if those weapons are subsequently used, and that's what the International Court of Justice was looking at. And so this operation to Rafah, 1.4 million people in there, both the US and the UK had said, really, you can't go in there until we've seen a credible plan for dealing with those civilians. And of course, they haven't seen that plan yet. But of course, Netanyahu is not stupid. He also wants to stay the right side of the law. And it does appear what's actually happening at the moment, he's trying 3 different ways of doing that. One of which he's distributed more leaflets telling the locals, and there's a new area, and telling the locals to move up to Al-Mawazi, which is just up to, as we can see on the map there. Second point he's doing is both the Rafah crossing and the Kerem Shalom crossing there, where the aid was going in. We understand no aid has flowed through there for at least 5 days now. So that breaks the umbilical there that's tying a lot of the civilians. And the third way is actually there's been a lot of military activity, tanks moving around the area, explosions, airstrikes, not necessarily the start of the offensive, but that's another motivation to get people to moving. And although we don't think the actual ground invasion has actually started of Rafah yet, you would be, but there is enough activity going on that they've definitely started, at least on a measured way, that offensive.
Look, if it does go ahead, as looks highly likely now, could that be the end militarily for Hamas?
Netanyahu has always been very clear that he says the last stronghold of Hamas is down in Rafah, and he's going to sort the last 4 battalions, about 2,000 fighters out. Militarily, Hamas is no match for the Israeli Defence Forces, so it should be a foregone conclusion. However, Hamas has proved very resilient at reconstituting, rearming, and also using the Gaza Metro, that underground network of tunnels that's going on. By way of example, at Zaytoun, which is in the southern district of Gaza City, they've done, in the last couple of days, over 17 attacks by Hamas on Israeli Defence Forces, even though the Israeli Defence Forces have twice swept through the area to try and clear it. Now, that demonstrates that Hamas is it's not defeated, it hasn't lost the will to fight, hasn't lost the means to fight, and all of that's a very strong indication that even if the Israeli Defence Forces go into Rafah and ostensibly win, whatever that means, it doesn't necessarily mean that Hamas will be defeated.
You talked about these pinch points with humanitarian aid. Just very quickly, Sean, how can more get in? Because clearly there could be a crisis, well, more of a crisis developing here with the civilian population.
Yeah, we haven't got much time. So the aid crossing closed us off. We were expecting the US to have a pontoon facility built up coming in from the sea. We understand that all the elements are in place at the moment. They just haven't actually been linked together. The real challenge seems to be the security situation on the ground. It's a war zone. The US has said they're not prepared to put boots on the ground, neither the UK. How do you make sure it's secure? How do you get the distribution of aid? But it's going to be desperately needed in the coming days.